Monday. Happy Martin Luther King Day. Good to have another day, and especially a special day like this where someone stood up for what they believed and they answered why. Answering why you exist starts a movement. I'll tell you that right now. It's amazing that someone had people bus all over the United States and hot buses and every color of the rainbow gathered because they all too believed that people were worthy. And so they too believed in what someone such as Mr. Martin Luther King Jr. was saying in his movement. So awesome to all be able to acknowledge a day like this, and that's what I always say: show up. The world needs you. So nonetheless, grateful for you tonight. We're talking about some really cool stuff tonight. Excited about last time being number 23 at radio. Yet is number 20 at radio. Two singles top 25 at AC Radio. It's amazing. But we're talking today. I don't know if you've ever heard of Transylvania. You know the story, Dracula and so forth. My kids love the movies, but no, we're talking about Transylvania legends that you actually don't hear about in Dracula. And there's tons of the urban legends that spin off from it. It's pretty fun. This is how I kind of unwind, right? Hair is looking tall as all hell is what it's doing. It's nuts. Did you know the mass child kidnapping and resettlement, the Pied Piper, right? I don't know if you know about this. It's one of the best known in the world, the legend. It's have you watched Silicon Valley? Anyway, it's pretty gruesome, actually, and it was created to scar children instead of preparing them for sweet dreams. So the inhabitants of the town, they found themselves unable to cope with a rat infestation. So this Pied Piper comes and he actually gets rid of everyone except one, so he doesn't get paid. So instead, he gets really mad, plays a different tune, brainwashes the kids. They follow him, and then some say that he follows them. They jump off cliffs. It's like, what? That's so sweet. It's so sweet. I bet you didn't know that. I didn't know that until I was researching all this stuff. So the reason why we come up with this is it's interesting because you all love watching the zombie deer. You all love the crime stuff. We have a great series that's out that we have videos releasing all week long about like what happens, how loved ones' bodies are handled. And it goes from burial to entombment to, it talks about even the crazy ways in which people were handled, dismembered. Obviously that's not legal at all, obviously, but you all love that stuff. And it's very interesting because it makes me happy to know that I'm not the only one that's going down the rabbit holes. It's cool to see people responding to comments. And every Friday we're going to be talking, or it's going to be Thursday. Every Thursday we'll be answering questions. All the platforms get hundreds a day. It's insane. Whether you follow me on TikTok or Insta or Facebook, probably 500 to 1,000 a day. So we're going to be taking those questions and answering those. But we're talking Transylvania right now, and it's very interesting how stories they kind of snowball, and it's interesting. I don't know how to even pronounce this one. There's a castle called Corvin Castle. It's this construction dating back to the 14th century or 15th. It depends on who you ask. I have to make sure I say that because you'd be amazed. People are like, well, actually. But interestingly, it also has a tower named Don't Be Afraid in English, by the Serbian mercenaries. They fought there, and add that to the coat of arms of the ruling family, which is a raven, and then you get this perfect haunted location. And people really, really wanted it to be haunted, so much so that the crew of Most Haunted Live spent 3 nights there looking for Dracula. They trusted the myth, and then there's no proof that it is haunted. The castle still had its share of pain and torment. It is said that one of the leaders of the fortress, I can't pronounce this dude's name, Lansu, he promised freedom to 3 Turkish prisoners if they would dig in the rock until they found water. The 3 prisoners are said to have dug for no less than 28 years before reaching their goal. Unfortunately for them, Lansu had died, and his wife didn't care about... That's so bad. Her late husband's promises. She ordered them to be beheaded. So they dug for 28 years. This is true. This is true now. They dug for 28 years because they were promised once they found water, then they would be able to be free. And then the wife of the late husband was like, you know what? We don't care. And actually, we're going to behead you. Before that, however, it is said that the three men managed to write, and I quote, "You now have water, but you don't have heart." Dang. Together with their names on the well wall to show the family's lack of honor. Today, visitors can see both the well and its inscription in Turkish. Could you imagine? You know, you're told you're imprisoned. Obviously, that's terrible in and of itself. And then you have this leader that's like, hey, you know what? I'll let you free if you dig. That shows perseverance. They're going to just commit themselves to this. That for 28 years they dig. The dude dies, and then the wife is like, you know what? I know what he said, but I don't care. And actually, I'm really annoyed with you, so I'm just going to chop your head off. That's insane. Like, people were gruesome and horrid back then. It's probably, well, it's actually no different than people now, right? It's obviously we're not chopping heads off, but people are pretty ruthless. Nonetheless, I wouldn't dig in rock for 28 years. I would, well, I don't know. I mean, I think we get in scenario situations, and then that's when our true character, that's when we really I think we really surprise ourselves one way or another. I mean, who am I to say if I was in prison for something and I was told to dig in rock that I wouldn't dig in rock? I mean, maybe I would like to think that I would show up. But nonetheless, they showed up. For 28 years, they were committed, and then they were beheaded. That's insane. So we're talking, for everybody that's joining, we're actually talking about Transylvania legends that you don't actually hear about in Dracula. So people were like, what do you do? What's this have to do with music? Everybody's always asking me, you know, what do you do for fun or for hobbies? I love crime. I don't love crime. I love reading about historical crimes or historical cold cases. I love hearing about paranormal and learning why people think what they think, and it's just very interesting to hear how stories have been passed down for generations. In this instance, obviously Transylvania, you have the Dracula, and then you have all of these stories and these legends, but there are actual roots to the story, and which spun these legends. So that's what we're talking about. And there is the Black Church, and I'm saying some of these words wrong, I know that, to which someone in a recent video commented, I believe it was a Nigerian word, and I go to this website to play the pronunciations because I don't want to say something wrong if I can help it. I want to at least show intention. So I said it wrong, and instead of throwing rocks, this person said, actually it's pronounced this way, thank you for the videos. And I was like, that's amazing. You know, I love constructive criticism. I'll admit all day long when I don't know something, say something right. If I'm incorrect, I would love to know how I can do it better. And that individual, I really appreciated it. So if I get these words wrong, I'll learn if I'm not getting them right? So the Black Church in Brasov is one of the most beautiful Gothic constructions in Romania. So we're in Romania. And it was damaged by a fire in the 17th century, so hence the name the Black Church. In the church, visitors can see both one of the most impressive organs in Europe and bullet holes from the violent revolution in 1989. 1989, there was this revolution. The real mystery, however, is outside. On top of one of the exterior pillars is the statue of a little boy in danger of falling. Its meaning is uncertain, but it surely comes from this tragic story. And so the story is basically, some say that this little boy died after falling. He fell after being sent by the builders to check if the wall was straight. And saddened by the event, they decided to create this sculpture as an homage to the sacrifice, or homage, if you will. So they paid homage. So I grew up having the word paying homage, H silent. Homage, potato, potato. The other story, told more often, says that the little boy was an amazingly skilled apprentice who made his master jealous during the construction. How can a little kid make an adult, that someone is very insecure, to be to be jealous of a child? Like, I would be so proud of him. Jealousy is not something that I struggle with. I'm always like, yeah, good job. I want everybody to level up. And then if you're like, you have this child over here like playing soccer and you're mad because they're scoring goals. Anyway, the master pushed the boy to his death, but later revealed the truth after being tormented by guilt. The rest of the builders decided to create the statue so that the talented young boy would not be forgotten, essentially live on. So that is the story that's told more so than not. Nonetheless, there was a child that was helping. There was a child that did die. Now, the manner in which or the reasoning behind his death is still uncertain, but it is believed that the master, or this little boy being the apprentice to, jealousy for a little kid. It's absurd. I should have done better with figuring out how to pronounce some of these words because now I'm all in my head. It's Sibiu. Yeah, one of the most beautiful medieval cities in Romania, is the home of many tourist attractions. And then one of them, the Bridge of Lies, seems harmless enough. It's actually a very beautiful spot for photographs. So what I'm talking about are all these, the Transylvania, like surrounding the story of. Just so you know, if you're just joining. So to clarify, it's beautiful as long as you're not a liar. Ooh, here we go. So the legend believed is, it says that the bridge can make particular noises and even collapse whenever someone tells a lie while standing on it, making it potentially lethal. It's a lie detector, it's called, this bridge. Could you imagine? It's like you take a lie detector test at a... See, that's fun to watch, by the way, these lie detector tests. If you ever watch, I think it's... is it Vanity? Variety? That do these, they hook these stars up and they ask them questions about relationships or who's the worst actor that you've worked with, is it so-and-so, and watching them lie or not lie, it's hilarious. I love it. So this legend actually has variations though. One says that merchants who cheated their customers were thrown off this bridge. Jeez. So honesty quickly became a common trait. I wonder how much crime would decrease. Like the whole eye for an eye. I mean, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying, but there are some countries who, if you murder someone, you are publicly hanged. Or if you, God forbid, assault, sexually abuse a child or an adult for that matter, you are chemically castrated. I don't know. There's something to say for that. I'm sure their crime goes way down. So you get tossed off a bridge if you lie. So girls who lied about their purity before marriage were said to be thrown off the bridge as well. So they didn't have chastity belts. They're just like, you know what? Screw that. We're just going to toss you over. Walk the plank. Last, it said that the bridge was a place where cadets would promise the moon and the stars to local girls before disappearing and probably forgetting the girls' names. Well, that's sad. Men. That's why we get a bad rap. 17th century people over there taking people to romantic bridges that are actually places where you kill people and throw them off. You tell them you're going to give them the world and then you just go off to battle or go off and forget about them. That's awful. Anyway, Transylvania. The secrets of Transylvania. No, the secret's out is that I can't believe that I have 2 songs top 25 radio. It's insane. It's amazing, actually. Because all these not stations, but all these songs and artists, they're all on labels. I'm the only independent artist. There's Warner, there's Republic, RCA, Arista Records, Geffen, Interscope, Columbia, Republic, Columbia, RCA, Columbia, Nashville, Atlantic. You get the idea. And then it says Nathan Morris Music. It's amazing. I'm so proud of it. Anyway, I'm talking about Transylvania secrets that are like too dark and it's not just Dracula and all that stuff. But northern Transylvania, there's this fortification. It was built in the 16th century. I love this, the 16th, 17th century. It's being renovated actually so that tourists can enjoy it. But according to the local legend, they could get much more than that they bargained for because it seems that the lord of the fortress, Francis Ricazzi, why do you got to do the CSZI stuff? We'll just say Francis from now on, okay? So bust me in the comments. Was successfully keeping an invading army at bay. In order to defeat him, the invaders sent a handsome officer to charm his daughter, who became so enamored that she revealed the existence of a secret tunnel. Speaking of, have you heard about the secret tunnel? I think it's in New York that's happening, that they found that these kids were digging and stuff. It's crazy. I don't know too much about it, obviously, because it sounds like I'm babbling, but it really is. And by the way, also, there are secret tunnels that are in my hometown, and all of like the original, the very old heart of Owensboro. There's all these secret tunnels that go to the water, to the river, Ohio River, and it's obviously they say it's a lot of the slaves during the time would be run through there to be protected, to be saved, things such as that, which is an amazing thing. But those tunnels, they found a lot of them because there was a kid at the middle school, Davis County Middle, who they've since moved the school, but he totally just dips out of school and he's wandering around and he finds a tunnel, finds this hole, just wanders through. Next thing you know, we've got police after this guy. This is real. This really did happen. Now, I don't know where he ended up, but they found, officials in Owensboro found all kinds of untapped tunnel potential. There's so much tunneling going on. Nonetheless, chick's enamored by the dude that's so handsome, tells about a secret tunnel. Her father managed to escape, but not before cursing her for eternity. Super pissed, he curses his daughter. You gotta be really mad to curse your kid. I mean, I've been mad at my kid, but I don't know if I would hex him. So he was nice enough, the dad, to allow redemption. Wait. Yeah, her father managed to escape, but not before cursing her family. He was nice enough to allow redemption via kissing, as in any good story, so the princess would be released if one brave man were to kiss her in her ghostly form. A snake, a frog, and a weeping bride who would appear in front of him. As far as we know, the princess is still working on her bridal dress, meaning she didn't get kissed. That's like Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's amazing how these stories evolve. You know, it's amazing. I think it's wild. Everything's so cyclical, you know? Well, this one's going to go over really well. This is the ghost that hates Russians. So it said. I'm just reading the prompt. A teleprompter, guys. The Taliki Mansion in the small town of Oknamuras. This is by Transylvania. We'll just keep saying that. Is currently a ruin and the subject of dispute between several descendants who want it returned. The entire trial, may last for quite a long time, and the mansion is in a very advanced state of decay. It happens. As a result, most people would rather keep their distance, but safety norms are not the only reason for this. Interesting. You know what? Why everybody got to fight? Why's everybody got to fight, guys? So unlike most legends, this mansion, the creepy story came during World War II when the locals started to talk about a ghost inhabiting it. So you're fighting a world war. You're just, you're fighting. You're tired. You're hungry. You're dirty. You don't want to fight. You've been, bobbing and weaving through bullets. And then now you got to worry about this ghost. As expected, the Red Army was hardly impressed by the stories, and some soldiers entered the mansion to enjoy the wine hidden in the cellar. Having enjoyed it a bit too much for their own sake, they started to shoot their Now I don't feel sorry for them. They started to shoot their guns joyfully until the barrels burst. The soldiers drowned in the wine, which is probably one of the least dignified ways to die in a war. The locals, however, blamed the ghost, which apparently has remained active ever since, if we are to trust some blurry photos taken in 2011. So there are photos of this alleged ghost. There are soldiers that did get really drunk and did drown on wine. And yes, what a terrible way to go. I mean, like, how brave to be someone in the military, speaking specifically to the United States military, not Russian soldiers, not to say anything against them, but I love our men and women in arms. So, wow. There is a lake that requires a human sacrifice. You're not going to hear about that in Dracula, so to speak, but there is, in a similar region, a village, they're very sure that this lake in the area sometimes require human sacrifices. I mean, or they just have human eating fish, or a shark, or people drown, or there's a huge snake in there that eats local residents. Have you heard about like some of those places? And I don't even know, but these people are just hanging out, walking in the jungle, and they're getting attacked by snakes, and eaten, or alligators. What a terrible way to go. Anyway, there are several mountain lakes with dark legends each of which is called an azir, I believe is how you say it. If I say it wrong, I don't apologize. Just teach me how to do it. One of the most famous stories refers to a sunken church. A long time ago, a flood covered a church and a few homes. I'll stop there. There's so many stories and instances where floods would disinter loved ones in their caskets at cemeteries, and they would, just get the caskets all over, just spread out. It happened a lot during the 37 flood. There's actually a cemetery close to where I'm from that they had to relocate all the casketed loved ones to another cemetery that had space for them because the waters rose so much and all the cemetery spaces went whoosh. Happens a lot in New Orleans. Yeah, it does. It does. So the flood covers this church and homes. The people in the village claim that they sometimes hear the bells of the church at night during Easter. That's interesting. Another darker legend is that of the bottomless lakes, which swallow people without ever returning them. One lake is said to have swallowed all of the guests at a wedding after they had tried to cross it during the winter. Why would another lake supposedly had a hidden vortex able to drown even the most skilled swimmers? Young girls used to bathe in it, as this ritual was said to help them get married within a year. The practice ended, however, when one of the girls was pulled under the water in spite of the fact that she was tied to the shore with rope. Okay, so they really wanted to get married, respectfully speaking, because all these people are drowning, they're disappearing, but it's also water that, hey, if I swim in this and bathe in this, then I'll get married within a year. I don't know. I guess they thought their biological clock. Finally, other legends talk about bloody pieces of flesh sometimes being seen at the surface of the water. I don't want to live around here. The Transylvanian Juliet. Transylvania, the name in and of itself, probably because we've heard it since we were young, and it always has like spookiness side, associated with it. It even spells like it's spooky. It's like, ooh. I'm from Owensboro. Owensboro. Yeah, there's nothing too scary about that. Transylvanian Juliet. All right, sorry. Let's go. Practically every culture has created at least one story about the forbidden love with a tragic ending. Of course they have. In addition to the world-famous stories like Tristan, you've heard about this. You've heard about these. There are lesser-known ones, some even supported by artifacts that we can see to this day. Interesting. Oh, wow. Here we go. One such story is that of the bride from Garbova, transmitted from one generation to another by the small German community living there. It takes a lot of work to keep these alive, these stories, whether they're fact or not. Well, there has to be some validity to this. Not necessarily just this story, but I'm saying in general because these people keeping it, going. It does probably develop legs. It's like the game of telephone, unless there's, corroborated, which that's why I love all this. This is why. The story begins with a wealthy and quite somewhat of authority figure. I can't say the word I can say amicable. I can't say amiable. That's a word too. Can't say it. I don't care. Authoritarian. Why was I giving it extra T's? Authoritarian. A man who happened to have the most beautiful daughter in the village. As all the young men in the area began to court her, the father decided that she would marry someone who possessed considerable wealth. But the girl had other plans. You girls, you all are the death of us. You make us do stupid stuff. Women. All right, here we go. Realizing they could not be together because she was madly in love, by the way, with this poor guy. Poor, no money. Realizing they couldn't be together, the servant left the village to make a living. Back home, the wedding was arranged, and the weakened bride entered the church together with the one chosen by her father. Oh no! However, she died in front of the altar. So the Transylvanian Juliet. She couldn't be with this man, then she died of a broken heart. Which, I will tell you, I have seen very old causes of death in these record books that go back to like 1910 at the funeral homes, and They do. They had causes of death were from broken heart. There were another cause of death that's really funny. Hear me out. Is ceased to breathe. You don't think. You don't say. Yeah, you ceased to breathe. Yep. It is said that when she died in front of the altar, that her bouquet, her flowers turned into stone, which I don't believe that necessarily, but I do know what love is, and I do know that it is possible to die of a broken heart, and that is not far-fetched whatsoever. And there are many stories that have passed on, like you have the princess wanting to marry or be with the poor kid or whatever. There's tons of stories like that. It's happened. If you can think it, then it's happened. In the 19th century, urban planning was quite different from today. Yet there were a few cities that tried to stand out. It's called Targu Mures. Targu sounds like Target, but Targu doesn't sound like Target at all. Which still is one of the most important cities in Transylvania. A singing fountain proved to be quite a unique source of entertainment. Could you imagine? It's kind of like when you go to, if you've ever been to Vegas, you have the fountain. I believe it plays Andre Bocelli, who is amazing, by the way. So this masterpiece was created by a very skilled artist and inventor, Peter Boder. And it was ingeniously connected series of tubes that made this fountain. And the fountain was both an organ and a flute. This is amazing. I want to see this. Thus, the people living in the city at the time could enjoy the music created by the flow of water. It's 19th century. I highly doubt it. Unless they made it. I mean, again, it's like Vegas. But obviously, a lot different technology. Those living here today can only enjoy the legend of the fountain. Unfortunately, officially, it was destroyed by a storm. That's terrible. It says, however, in legend that its own creator decided to silence its music forever through an ingenious trick, having been arrested for creating counterfeited money. Gosh, why do you got to ruin a good thing, people? Like, couldn't you just be excited to made this? And you're like, that's my mark, because we do leave a mark. We're going to be remembered for something. I would love to have a fountain that's playing organ music and flute, a flautist. It's amazing. Anyway, let's make money instead. That's fake. This man asked to see the fountain once more before being taken away by the police. He used this brief visit to remove one small piece. The entire mechanism stopped functioning. Interesting. Now, I could believe that because it did obviously stop working. And if he is going to jail and he does visit it and he's going to sabotage it, which, don't fight evil with evil. Which is not saying the fountain's evil, but don't do something ugly. That's not good. I don't know about you all, but my brain doesn't go to becoming this vengeful human. No, it's ugly. It's gross. I know we're talking about Transylvania and Dracula stuff, but Transylvania and everything around it, the legends surrounding it, is not just Dracula. Pied Piper, we got organ fountains, and then you have, of course, extreme marriage counseling through imprisonment. That sounds like a really good way to sell therapy and couples counseling. This is a legend, by the way. I don't know that this one is true. It's hard to track its exact origins. In the past, couples looking to separate were locked in the prison tower for 2 weeks. There's the Catholic Church has what's called grace marriage. It's like a multi-week thing that you go to, and apparently it's people really like it. You don't get locked away in a castle, by the way, but anyway, every church, every community has something probably similar. During this time, they had to sleep in the same bed and eat together, which apparently resulted in meaningful conversations. So yeah, you had to do what couples do, which is interesting. As a result, it is said that only one couple actually went on with a divorce after spending 2 weeks locked up together. As sweet as the story may sound, there's always the dark twist. Obviously, this twist can be found in the legend of the Fortress Church, a small town close to Sibiu called Cisna Diora, whatever. This word. This word. In this case, the couples went through the same marriage counseling. The difference is that they were never to be released unless they made up. Apparently, the people, wow, they took the phrase "till death do us part" very seriously. So, like, you know what? Screw you. I don't like you. I don't give a shit about you. Peace out. And so they just stayed in there until they died because they were not going to get back together. That's called pride. that's pride. At that point, you just need to, I don't know. That's pride. I think pride could be a terrible thing. I think forgiveness and inclusion, listen to me, I sound like Mr. Rogers' son. I'm Herbert Rogers. That's amazing. By the way, did you know that Mr. Rogers, when he would go over and feed the fish, he would announce it sometimes, not all the time. And he got a letter from this little girl who was a blind little girl. And she said she loved knowing when he went to feed the fish. So after receiving that letter, until the very last episode of Mr. Rogers, he would say when he was going to feed the fish. That's amazing. Pretty cool. I know we're talking about Transylvania and stories around it outside of Dracula and the darkness of, but you know what? Darkness is drowned out by the light. Isn't that sweet? Super sweet. I'll tell you what I have going on. Not that it has anything to do with Dracula. But you've got the 2 singles. They're killing it at radio still. You have all the content. My tripod's about to fall. You have all the content. We're releasing stuff every day. We do 5 pieces of original content on all the platforms. It's like 30-something pieces of content a day. It's nuts. It's wild. Podcast releases tomorrow. You'll Die Trying. If you've noticed on YouTube here, you're going to see a bunch of facelifts on a lot of these videos. You see a lot of new thumbnails. We're organizing, adding playlists, creating a lot of really cool means for you all to find content easier here. And I'm excited to be more intentional here on the channel. And we go live every Sunday on TikTok for our subscribers. $5.99 a month. You're going to get first looks, first listens, and then we're touring in 2024. You'll get first dibs on some really cool VIP experience stuff that we have in the works as well. I'm really excited. We're launching the new merch like next week. So on Tuesdays, the podcast comes out, and then we have bonus noise. You have so many things to choose from. It sounds like just a quagmire of shit. The goal is for you to know that I meet you where you are, wherever it is you are. And I love legends. I love crime podcasts, and I love hearing about different ghostly experiences such as that. There's such a beautiful parallel between death care and creativity and music and writing. You can't have a beautiful funeral without beautiful music. You can't have, in my opinion, a beautiful song without experiencing grief, sadness, loss. Yeah. And ended it. I went live yesterday. I went live for an hour and a half. It was a long time. Think about talking that much because I can't hear you all back. I would love to, but I can't. I would love to, but I can't. So it's sitting there. It's like a dance. I'm like a monkey in a zoo. Just sit there and I just like stare at you all and wave. But I enjoy it. I really do. We do. We go live every Sunday on TikTok. We went live for everybody, and it was amazing. We had 8,315 views, which is crazy. It was amazing. And what we're doing here on YouTube is similar. We're going live every night at 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9, 8 Central. And the goal is to just meet you here, talk about fun stuff, and all the questions that you have, wherever it is you're asking these questions here on YouTube, for instance, today, writing in these comments, questions you might have surrounding what we talked about, the Pied Piper. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's like, you know what? I couldn't get one rat. I didn't get paid, so I'm going to kill all the kids. That's terrible. Write a question that you might have. I'll try to answer it. Don't know anything about Pied Piper and fixing that guy. He's jacked up. But I'm excited about everything that's happening, and I'm excited. I had an interview today on radio. It'll air February the 1st, I believe, or 2nd. There's a show called The Jim Brickman Show. It's a syndicated show across like 36, 40, however many radio stations. And I was talking to the gentleman, and we were just talking about, he was talking about his late father. He was talking about his family's farmland and how all of his family are super close and they live close together. And he's telling me all these really cool stories, and it had me realize I felt appreciative that he was sharing these stories with me, these stories that are important to him and special to him. His late father had a very what's the word, a brain aneurysm that totally transformed this man at 36 years old, and he lived another 30 years, never really the same as he was before this, this health tragedy, if you will, took him from this man. And he was just talking about his father in such a beautiful light. And at the visitation, all these people from 30 years before who had worked with this man about how incredible he was, and like these beautiful stories, not to sanctify him, but to genuinely speak to his integrity. And I think that's really special and cool, because we sometimes just show up and we have these mundane feelings. We're like, you know what? I'm going to work. I'm going to work. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you feel like you run through these motions at times. But then today helped me realize that what I've said numerous times about showing up because the world needs you to was solidified by this man telling stories of his father, who 30 years prior, when he could, right? When he could show up, he did. And so many people remember that. I think it's really cool and special. So whether you love Transylvania, dark stories, podcasts, and you want to meet at the You'll Die Trying podcast, or you love my music, or you just are, a weirdo flipping through YouTube and you find me, I'm glad, because we're all weird. And I appreciate you so, so much. And it means a lot to me that you're here tonight, because you could be doing anything, like watching the Emmys. You should go watch the Emmys. All right. Every night, 9, 8 Central, I'll see you. Share video on YouTube. Share one, watch one, share with a friend. And check out the new visualizer for last time. I appreciate all the support. Tomorrow, you know what? We've got a topic for tomorrow, and we'll talk about it then. But until then, I went over 10 crazy things that happened in Transylvania. I'm going to make a flute fountain. All right? That's what I'm going to do. Your love far more than you can know. I'll talk to you.